Thank you for coming out to the Star Wars panel. We'll be discussing all things Star Wars. To these fine gentlemen right here. And what we want to introduce them. This is Spencer Wilding.
Hello.
He, better known as,
Hope you have a great day.
Darth Vader from Rogue One.
I love Iceland.
He loves Iceland.
I think you're great.
And besides him is Brian Muir. Could be considered the father of Darth Vader. So this is actually a special treat because they have never actually been together on a panel before.
Yeah.
So this is father and son meeting up finally. Beautiful moment.
You're my father. Yeah. So, without Brian, none of this would be going on right now. That's what I'm saying.
And then we have Tom Hutchens. He's the founder of the Mandalorian Mercs Costume Club. And what exactly does you do?
Oh, we dress up as Mandalorians from Star Wars. So if you've watched Star Wars Rebels or Clone Wars, you know what a Mandalorian is, or Boba Fett, same type of armor. We do that worldwide.
Very good, very good. And then we have Nick Jameson. He has probably the longest IMDb page of them all, with over 200, nearly 240 credits to his name, on IMDb at least.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he does a lot of voiceover work for Star Wars, and most notably like Palpatine and all that good stuff. So.
Surprise from 501st. I'd like to present you with an honorary member plaque.
Oh,
You're
wow,
now
thank you.
an honorary member of the 501st with all the perks included.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, cool.
Where do we start? Who wants to start? With what? How about you?
Well, it's been lovely weather.
Yeah, lovely weather right now.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, my name's Spencer Wilding.
Yep.
I've been in the acting career now for about 17 years. Started in the sports world as a professional kickboxer and boxer. That sort of opened up the doorway for the next dream, which was the films. I landed my first role in Harry Potter, so straight in the deep end. And yeah, they sealed me up in a wolf suit, couldn't breathe, couldn't see. And I thought, great, I'm in the movies, woohoo! That's how it started.
But I wanted to ask you one thing, because Icelanders love everything that's connected to Iceland somehow, if it's famous or. And according to IMDb, you were in Beowulf.
I was.
Yes.
And it was my third film.
I
was in that too.
Yeah, but you were in the animated version. And there's a Beowulf that was shot and produced in Iceland that starred, what's his face?
Gerald Butler.
Gerald Butler.
Tony Curran.
Yeah, and so did you shoot that here? Or?
Yeah, we did. We filmed it in Vik.
Yeah.
So Vik's this way, right? And it was like after I finished on Harry Potter, I got a good relationship with Nick Nudman, and they rang me up and said, would you like to play in the film Beowulf? I said, would you double Grendel? I said, yeah, no problem. I said, would you double the Sea Hag? I said, yeah, no problem. Right, great. I said, but we've got one problem. I want my own character as well. So they said, well, be Grendel's father. So it was the first time I came to Iceland was 14 years ago. So I was very into business. But wow, I fell in love with your country instantly. You're a very special breed, and there's only a few of you, so you're pretty unique. You know what I mean? You're special. So it was great. For 7 weeks, we filmed in the mountains, on the beach. We went in the caves. Yeah, got it on with the Sea Hag. And Joe Butler, 1-to-1. He won because he's Beowulf. He killed me 3 times in that film. It didn't half hurt. So, but you know, you've got the most. Well, I go all over the world like these guys, and you've got the most beautiful country in the world. Well done.
Yeah. Let's give him a hand. So, Brian, how you've been asked this 1,000 times. How did you get involved in Star Wars initially? Like, because you had retired from, you weren't working at the studios at Elstree, right?
Well, I actually started in the film industry way back in 1968. I was lucky enough to be the only apprentice ever in the film industry in England, and there's never ever been anyone since. So I was privileged to get that start. After working in the film industry for 4 years at Elstree, I went out of the industry. I had work unveiled by the Queen of England and the Queen Mother, and then I had a phone call in 1976. Did I want to go back into Elstree Studios and work on a science fiction film? The film being Star Wars. They said they wanted some strange characters sculpted. So I didn't know what I was walking into. They said, you've only got 6 weeks work, because they didn't know how good I was or whatever, so they covered themselves so they can get rid of you. But I stayed the whole film, so they must have thought my work was all right. And I did Darth Vader, the Stormtrooper armour, the Death Star droid, CZ3, and finishing work on C3PO. And enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Because one thing I wanted to know, because when you first saw the initial designs for Darth Vader, his face was much more elongated, and then I'm not a really hardcore nerd like that, so I've only seen that version that Maguire did, and then the finished version.
Yeah, I sometimes get asked that. Why doesn't your Vader look anything like the concept work? Well, basically, I didn't work to the concept work. I mean, it was decided that to do it like Ralph McQuarrie's work, it would have come out so far, because Dave Prowse has a large head, and if you scale that up and how far it was coming out, it would have looked wrong. So John Mollo just come up with a tiny, just simple sketch from one angle. I was told by the designer that they wanted the character to look threatening and frightening, and that's all I had to go by. But they did actually do a plaster cast of Dave Prowse, so they moulded him and cast the whole body and head in plaster. So I sculpted on top of that, knowing that whatever I sculpted would then fit back onto Dave Prowse.
And so, Nick, how did Star Wars drag you into?
Oh, well, I've been working with LucasArts since they first started doing games. The first game I think was one of their first ones, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. And then that was followed by Sam and Max, in which I played Max. And then I've been working with them ever since. I've just done so much stuff with them, probably more than any other game company I've worked with. And yeah, I did Palpatine in the games and on many of the episodes of the Clone Wars TV series, and a lot of other. I think at some point or other I probably played every character in the movie on some game or other. But my main ones were always Palpatine, and Kyle Katarn was another one. In voice acting, you do so many voices in these games, it's hard to remember them all. You just kind of remember the main ones. I've done more fighter pilots than I will ever be able to remember, things like that. That's how that came about.
We have to introduce the man at the end. Won't you introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, I almost missed the introduction. I was busy. My name is Hilmir, and I'm the CEO of the Icelandic Outpost of the 501st Legion. And the 501st Legion... Thank you. And the 501st Legion, it operates worldwide. It has over 12,000 members. Give them applause. When you see a member of the 501st, you will notice the high quality of the costume. We strive to maintain screen accuracy. And on our website, we have something called the reference library, where you can browse through every costume, and it is listed down what you have to make this costume acceptable. Also, I'm one of the Midgard team, and I'd like to thank you, everyone, for coming and making this happen.
Now, Tom, how did Star Wars change your life?
Oh, wow. That's a really great question. Star Wars changed my life when I was 5 years old and I got to watch Return of the Jedi in the theater for the first time. I saw, Boba Fett walk on screen, and I instantly fell in love with him. And then about 5 minutes later, I was crying because he fell in the Starlight Pit. So I mean, that's pretty traumatic as a kid to see something that you just instantly fall in love with, and then all of a sudden it's dead. So I made it my life's goal to rescue Boba Fett and bring him back. So I think I've kind of done that in creating a costume organization that we all dress up similar to Boba Fett. Mandalorian Mercs, like the 501st, we're worldwide. We've got 68 chapters. We're working on one here in Iceland. I've been to several places around the world, but I think right now Iceland's probably my favorite. I've met so many awesome people. You guys have been so welcoming. It's just amazing. It's an amazing place.
Cool. Woo! Now, Spencer, regarding your Darth Vader, how did that come about? Because we've heard later on that there had been quite a bit of production issues with the ending and such like that. Was his appearance always supposed to be in the film, or was that added on later?
That was brought in the reshoots later
Right.
on. The fight scene at the end, because Dan did that. I did the opening of the scenes, the promotional work, and some of the stuff you see on the trailers. So, but when I got the audition, my agent rang me up, and they said, "We've got an audition. It's a self-tape. Can you come into the workshop?" I said, "What's it for?" They said, "Well, they won't tell us." He said, "What? They won't tell us." I said, "Where is it?" "They won't tell us." I said, so what are we doing? We've got some dialogue here. Okay, well, what's the character's name? They won't tell us. So it was really strange. So I went there. I said, well, this is different. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was a little bit like that. They wouldn't give us the whole script. They just give us our scene. But this was we didn't even get that. So when I went into the studio, when I went to the workshop, we went in there. We went through the dialogue, and for some reason, I kept on saying, I said, this is. I've got a feeling this is Star Wars, No, I don't think it is, No, I really think it is. So anyway, we went through it. Then the following week, we called back for a reshoot. We've got another self-tape. I said, okay, all right. What is it? Well, they're sort of telling us what it is. I said, what's that then? Well, they won't tell us what it is, but it's at Pinewood Studios. If you get this one, I said, so it's Star Wars, isn't it? He said, well, they won't tell us. I said, okay. So we went through the dialogue, and I said, listen, I know it's Star Wars. Well, why do you think that? I just got a feeling, and I think that's the only thing that's filming at the moment in Pinewood. Okay. I think it's Darth Vader. Why do you think that? Because I said that at the end of every line, it's going, Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I went, oh, you got a point there. So it was one of them. So then when we got the final call to go for the last callbacks, there was 3 of them. It was really strange for me. I filmed in Pinewood Studios several times, and when I got picked up at the train station. The driver comes to the gate, and he goes, "Spen, you're gonna have to go with this because we've got a lot of press. Because it's rumoured that Darth Vader's going to be playing. So now we know Darth Vader's going to be playing. I'm auditioning for him, and I'm sure they've gone round the world for this guy. We're going to put a bit of a towel over your head when you get out of the car." I said, "We're in the studios." I said, "Listen, they've got long lenses, and they're in the bushes. We're in there, we're in there." I said, "Okay." So they take us into a stage that I've never seen before. You know, there was Christmas decoration boxes wrapped up in the loft. It was one of them. So it was right up in the tops. But when I went there, and they drawn back the curtains, and there was the suit. Well, how would you feel? Do you know what I mean? But it was a bit of a Cinderella. It was if the boot fit. So when I put the boots on, like a glove, I had to chop my toes off though. No, but it went on like a glove. The other boot like a glove. The gloves, everything. It was just perfect. But then the presence of Vader. There's a real presence of spirit out there of Vader. It truly is. Like every character, those guys choose, and he took over me, and the atmosphere changed. And it was so funny. The wardrobe guy, I forget his name now. Sorry. As he put the lid on me, the helmet. This guy's a bit of handiwork. My eyes went black. Darth Vader was in the room. He took over. And this guy was like, yeah, I've done it 1,000 times this week, you can see this thing. As soon as he put it, he went like, huh? And the atmosphere changed, and he went. I think he had to go to the toilet. So it was a moment, and so I know Vader was with me, and I just had a feeling that you know, if he's choosing me, he chooses you. You don't choose him. So we got the role, and I knew it was a good thing. It was going to change my life, and I was going to go to a lot more Comic Cons and meet all you guys. So it was awesome.
Now, did you worked on all the Star Wars films, or?
No, I just worked on the first one and did all the characters. Then I worked on number 1.
Right.
And it was just, I did price up the pods for the pod racing.
Oh, okay.
And I thought I'd put in a reasonable price, but someone put in a stupid price and I didn't got the job. But I did the only part of the spaceship, the main spaceship, that wasn't CGI'd, I did.
Right.
And it was just the leg of the spaceship. And the only reason they had to do that is because the actors come running down the ramp. And the leg's there. So yeah, that's all I did on that one. But I did actually go on Force Awakens, and the last film I worked on before finishing and retiring was Rogue One. But I'm not allowed to say anything about it. But I'll tell you what did happen. The day I started on the film, I thought, oh well, put it up on Facebook. That looked good. So yeah, I put it up on Facebook. Nothing other than started on Rogue One, and it went viral. Within half an hour, I had 800 likes on my page, but it had gone way out beyond there. There was all sorts of wild things being said. And the very same evening, I had a phone call from the production office, Disney, saying, what have you got put on your page? And I said, well, nothing other than the fact that I started on Rogue One. They said, get it off.
That's nice.
So, my lips are sealed.
But you also, your ties with George Lucas is also with Indiana Jones series as well.
Yeah, all 3.
Yeah. Were you responsible for the the Easter eggs of C-3PO and R2-D2 and some of the background sculpting?
No, there were some Egyptian panels.
Right.
I mean, I did the snake that's in front of Indiana Jones. When they shoot from behind his head, you see a real cobra behind a sheet of glass.
Right.
You can't see the glass, but when they shoot back the other way, they couldn't have the glass. So I had to sculpt a cobra when you see his face. But anyway, you were asking me about that panel. Now, there were two of us doing those Egyptian panels. And sometimes your mind just goes. So I could have carved them without even thinking about it. I couldn't honestly say I did.
Right.
But then I couldn't say I didn't.
Right.
But there was only two of us doing them, so there's a 50% chance I did it.
Right. So, Nick.
Yes,
Yes. You live in Iceland.
I do. I've lived here almost 4 years.
Why?
Because I like it. There's no other reason that I moved here other than that I like it. It wasn't for a relationship, it wasn't for work, it was the first time in my life I just decided, I love this place, I want to live here, I'm going to make everything else work around it. It's the best decision I ever made. It really is. I just love it here.
Give it up.
Yeah.
True believer. True believer. And Tom? What are you guys doing these days?
Oh wow, well, teaching people how to make armor, that's probably one of my more favorite things to do. I do a lot of live streams every weekend out of my workshop in North Carolina. Always working on something, and I like people, to be able to teach people what I do, because there's very few people that do it the way I do it. I mean, I literally am wearing a 50-pound suit of armor, and it's heavy. And it feels real when you're wearing it, and when people like to touch it and feel it and that kind of thing. And I've always been a big fan of when I do something, I throw myself into it. A long time ago when I first started this, a good friend of mine, and it always feels weird to even think back to it, but he told me that I was going to have to be the Pope of Mandalorian fandom if I really wanted it to take off and be. Have an actual organization like the 501st, the Rebel Legion. And after a lot of soul searching and how weird that sounded, kind of giving into it, he was right. So I've always thrown myself into it and tried to make my armor as real as possible. I have helped consult with some authors on Mandalorians, with some of the Star Wars books. I've been lucky enough to actually have my character added to Star Wars in some of the books. I got to be an expanded universe character for about 4 months before Disney bought Lucasfilm, and now he's a Star Wars legend. So I'm fine with that. You can call me a Star Wars legend. I'm good with that, But no, I mean, I really like teaching people and showing people how it's done and really passing on the knowledge.
Cool. Speaking of costumes, Brian, do you own your own Darth Vader costume, and have you put it on ever?
Every night in bed.
Right.
Yeah, it's the breathing that goes down there after a while.
Better than a CPAP machine.
Yeah, I've got about 4 or 5 helmets.
Right.
I've got one that's out the original mould, but
That's cool.
I won't talk about that one too much.
But do you have one?
No, I'd love one.
Yeah.
No,
You couldn't afford it.
definitely not. They did close the gates a few times. Every time they took that suit on, I go, I'm just going to the loo, and they get me going out the gates like that. No.
But you ever thought about that you might be the last person to ever play Darth Vader on screen?
No, that's not going to happen. It's an iconic character. For sure, I don't know, but for sure, it's the back one.
Well, yeah, probably, but like but this is like the original canon storyline that people have been talking about for decades.
Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
That's cool though.
I think Rogue One brought it full circle. Really.
Right, yeah.
Starting from A New Hope and finishing up a quarter of an hour before A New Hope started. But I think I agree with Spencer. It's such an iconic character that they will come up with a storyline for it.
You know what? Aliens in 1,000 years' time will probably bring us back. He's probably their god. You never know, right?
So, should we open the floor for questions?
Don't open the floor, they'll all go through it. Where to go?
All right, just raise your hands and this guy will.
Hello, Spencer. This question is for you. If
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks very much.
Great night, wasn't it? I'm joking.
If you were stuck in Iceland with any character from the science fiction and fantasy world, we can have more than one if you want, who would it be and why?
Oh, it'd definitely be Chewie, because the weather gets a bit cold here. You couldn't look at it every night, can't I?
Hi, I was just wondering, what do you think about all the Star Wars parodies like Spaceballs and The Family Guy and all of that? Do you watch it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? And why?
I did an episode of Robot Chicken where I did McFarlane's Emperor because I don't know, he wasn't around or something. And I thought, this is not right, this is not the Emperor, this is something silly. Well, the fans are going to be pissed off. But it was a lot of fun. It's, you know, it's an iconic thing, so it's going to be messed with by everybody. It's inevitable. And it's usually fun.
What the heck is an aluminum falcon?
An aluminum falcon, yeah, right.
This question for Spencer. What was it like to work with Christopher Nolan and James Gunn?
In Batman Begins. Oh, it was pretty awesome. That was, it was like the third film in. And I remember on the first, because we knew it was for Batman, that wasn't too secretive then. They brought me in, and the first audition, Christopher Nolan wasn't there for the first audition. Got that, then it was the callback. Then in London, one of the casting agents there, I went in there and Christopher Nolan said, right, okay, I want you to use your imagination here now. There's 10 baddies in here, all right, okay. And this is when I was deep into the kickboxing world. I'm still fighting, very active, right, professional. So I'm right up for this. So okay. So there's 10 bad guys in here now, and they're all going to attack you. The floor's yours. So I stepped back and went, oh, okay. So I just went to town. I was battling for 2 minutes. And the guy, Christopher Nolan, no, he went like that. You just kicked their ass. I said, no. Look at them everywhere. Look, they're all dead. But that was my audition, you know. So that's how I got it. And then I remember on the first day of filming, first time I worked around the stunties, and it was Dave Foreman. Remember Dave Foreman? Yeah. So Dave Foreman was the stunt coordinator, and there was me and like another 4 League of the Shadows, because I was League of the Shadow Warrior 1. I'm the guy that burned down Batman's house. You probably don't recognise me. It's a long time ago. It looked a bit sharper then. You know what I mean? I burned down his house. I come out of the house. I catch the Uzi. Do you remember that bit? You remember it? It was quick. You know, if you close your eyes, gone. You know, it was one of them. I used to put it on slow every night. That's me. So it was one of them. And but yeah, you know what? It's very special to me, that film, because I've lost 2 good friends. There was Karnboff. He was a great actor. He's the one who chucked the gun. He passed on stage rehearsals. And Dave Regino. You know, Dave Regino was very, very, very good friends of mine. And he passed away in Death Valley. So it's quite sad, really, but some great memories. So that's my experience with Christopher Nolan. Great question, man. And you've killed it. You've bought loads over the past 2 days. Let's applaud that man. Sorry, man, that's great. He's very passionate. I can't wait. One day you want to take a picture of your bedroom, because you've got some items there, right? That's like a cave. It's like a bat cave.
So this question is here for the one who can answer it. I've been actually thinking of it for the last few hours, but I've been like browsing on the internet. But is it true that the next movie is supposed to be named A Spark of Light, and also is there gonna come a Boba Fett story movie? Because everyone is telling about saying that.
That's a good question on both fronts that I don't know that any of us can really answer, and even if we could, I don't think we could.
Well, we could, but George would kill us.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not getting shown out.
I always hope that they'll do a Boba Fett movie, but then in the back of my mind, I wonder if we really need a Boba Fett movie. I mean, you know, I'm always of the opinion that if you dive into something too much, what makes Boba Fett such a great character is the mystery behind Boba Fett. And we uncovered a lot of that mystery in Clone Wars and in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. If you uncover too much of that mystery, then the character itself, it stops becoming as attractive and as fun. It's like Darth Vader. Really, the greatest things about Darth Vader is the stuff that you don't know but are afraid of, even though you don't know it. You know that he's a badass and that he's taken out a lot of Jedi. You don't have to go into all of those stories. So they may decide to do it. It'd be great if they did, but I'm indifferent either way.
This is a question for Nick. What was it like to voice Palpatine in the Clone Wars series?
In the what?
In the Clone Wars series.
Clone Wars episodes. Oh, that was great. It's a lot more fun to record the way we did that as an animated TV show than it is to do a game. Because in a game, it's like you're reading a phone book. You just got these endless lines and 20 variations of every line, so you don't feel like you're really performing so much. I mean, you get into it as much as you can, but in the Clone Wars series, we had all these great actors in a room together, and we would just bounce off each other, and it's a more social thing, it's more fun, you see your friends, and you just get that energy of hearing the other characters. We had, Corey Burton and Tom Kane, and just, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Rob Paulson, all these great actors. It was really fun, it was really good. We had a great time.
Hey Tom, will you and your wife be walking around in armor tonight? And to the whole crew of you, what's it like knowing that you're part of Star Wars?
We probably have been in armor long enough today. We probably won't be back in our armor today. But if you want to look at some parts, I'll bring some down for you.
This one is for all of you. Do you guys have a favorite Star Wars movie?
Which is the favourite one?
Yeah.
Can I say the first three? No. I love the originals for sure. What they did with Rogue One was pretty special. It was like old school. You know what I mean? They're all great. But I really, really like the first three. For me.
Yeah, I would second that. It's just the freshness of it. It was just such a. Nobody ever seen anything like it before, and just the way the storyline went through those first three and all the relationships of the characters. It got kind of complex later on, which is great, especially for hardcore Star Wars fans, but it was just so crystal clear and so, all these archetypes coming out. So I would agree, first three.
Same for me, really. It's if the original three. If I had to be tied down to one film, I'd probably say Empire Strikes Back.
I think for me, it goes Return of the Jedi is obviously my favorite. This is the first that I got to see in the movies. And then Rogue One after that, and then The Last Jedi. So I kind of span several different generations worth there. And the cartoons. The cartoons are also excellent. Clone Wars and Rebels both. Dave Filoni has knocked those out of the park.
I must second that with Empire Strikes Back. What I loved about Empire Strikes Back is how you kind of get to know the characters more, and what Irvin Kershner kind of made all the characters more alive. And Rogue One.
Which one was yours? Which one was yours? Round about the same? Yeah? We all sort of like the first ones, right?
Yeah.
We love them. It was so ahead of the time.
It was, yeah, there was nothing like it. And of course, in the first one, nobody thought, nobody that Lucas was working with thought it was going to go anywhere. They thought he was crazy.
We were working all those months at Elstree on it, and all the crew thought this film wasn't going to be any good.
Yeah.
And then when we went to the crew showing in the summer of '77, and that huge spaceship went overhead, and the crew were aghast, and there was a round of applause. And although I've worked on 70 films and gone to many crew showings, the crew actually got up and it gave it a round of applause. And I've never seen it before or after. It proved how ahead of its time it was. It was a real, and it's almost survived the test of time. It still stands up as a good film.
I've got my memory of it was come out in '77, right? I was 5 years old. I was born in '72, and I said to my dad, I remember vividly, I was only 5 years old. I said, I want to go and see Star Wars, you know. So my dad took me to see Star Wars that I thought, and it was in Prestatyn. Prestatyn is in North Wales, which is about half an hour outside the Roman city of Chester, or an hour outside of Manchester. I was sitting there, eating me popcorn, drinking me Coca-Cola, and I was like 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the film, but I just vividly remember seeing it. I'm thinking, where's the spaceships? Where's this? And my dad's like that, watching it, 20 minutes in. I said, Dad, where's the spaceships? And he didn't want to see it, so he took me to see Pink Panther instead. I was gutted. I was like, hey, he did to see the bit. What are they doing?
What's the weirdest thing that happened on set?
Wait there. I know you. I know you. I am from a martial arts world, and I've heard you're pretty good at the old taekwondo. Is this true? Do you think you could kick me in the face? Come up here. That's what's it.
Thanks, guys. You all rock. Icelandic rock.
So, any more questions? Anyone?
So how did you like get the idea of Chewbacca?
Get the idea of Chewbacca. Is that it? How did you get the idea of Chewbacca? Well, it wasn't really our idea, right? Because if it was, we'd be well rich right now. So, I think in the beginning, they've come up with all the different characters. So Chewie, be amazing. Who thought of Chewie?
It was McQuarrie, I believe, did the original concept for Chewie.
Wow. He did most of the original concepts. It was actually McQuarrie's work that got the film made, because George Lucas went to 20th Century Fox with Ralph McQuarrie and his concept work, and they were so impressed with it that they put the money up for the film. So it was probably McQuarrie that came up with the concept with input from George Lucas.
In fact, I think when you look at the McQuarrie art and you look at the costume of Chewbacca, really that's probably one of the few costumes that's pretty close to what the concept actually looks like on paper. There wasn't a whole lot of deviation from the McQuarrie concept.
This is for Brian. I had a question. You said that you worked about 6 weeks on the Vader mask. At any time during that process did George maybe come in and give pointers, and if so, can you tell us a bit how that went?
Yes, he did, but George Lucas wasn't a man of many words. He made it clear that he liked what I was doing, and that was it. John Barry, the designer, was there when George came up all the time. But Dave Prowse told me that the only direction he got from George Lucas was to slow down, because he strolled out really with long steps, thought he was looking powerful, and the camera on the track couldn't keep up with him. And George Lucas told him to slow down, and that was the only direction he got from George Lucas over the whole film. So he came up a few times to see the Stormtrooper and Vader, as they were big characters within the film. But he made it clear he liked them without saying too much.
This is for Brian. When you made the Darth Vader mask, what was your main influence?
Well, the influence mainly, I've heard Samurai and the German Second World War helmet, but John Mollo, the costume designer, did actually have someone put the German helmet on and a gas mask, but I was never shown that picture. I never knew of that. I was just given a small, it might have influenced John Mollo in the little sketch thing he did, about so big and just from one angle. And that's all I had, plus the fact that John Barry said they want the character to look evil and be mean. And that's all I had to go with, apart from the fact that they moulded Dave Prowse and reproduced him in plaster. I sculpted over that plaster model of all the Vader parts that I did, the mask, the helmet, the chest armour, shoulder bells and shins, were done over that plaster model, knowing full well that it would actually fit back onto him. But the mask and the helmet were done to John Mollo's original little small drawing, but the chest armour, shoulder bells and shins were actually done to Ralph McQuarrie's concept art. Actually, I'll go off of Vader for a little bit and talk about the back of the Stormtrooper, because all the Stormtrooper was done from Ralph McQuarrie's concept art, but there was no concept art for the back of the Stormtrooper. So for the panel on the back, it was John Barry that actually come up with the idea, well, we'll have a panel there. So I sculpted the panel. And because I was so up against it time-wise, I worked 76 days without a day off. I thought, oh, I'll do a shortcut, as there's no concept art, I'll take a shortcut here. So I went down to the prop room, I found a cog and 2 bits of wood, and I went back up and I stuck the cog on, the panel, and the 2 bits of wood, and you'll be amazed at what the things that I've read, what they mean. And it only means I didn't have any time.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
I just have one question. I hope I'm not getting you into trouble for this, but how do you personally feel, if you can answer this question, how do you personally feel about Disney sort of taking over?
I think Disney rocks. Woohoo! Yeah, give me another Jaws.
For me, personally, I think it was a good thing that Disney did, because I don't think there ever would have been another Star Wars picture made. I think George Lucas took so much stick over the prequels that he's lost his passion in a way, and I think that the machine that Disney is, they were always going to do film after film after film, and they will keep making them, and as long as they make money, they'll keep making them and coming up with stories. So for me, it was a good thing.
I remember in an interview I watched one time, it was probably about 6 years ago, and it was George Lucas and his now wife, Melanie Hobson, and they were doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and one of the questions that she had asked him was, well, how do you feel about the Star Wars movies? And he said, well, I never got the magic of Star Wars. I never understood the magic of Star Wars. To me, it was always something that I made, So he never really understood the fan allure of Star Wars. He saw it as a medium for him to do his job and what he loved to do, which is create art, and digital art now more than ever. And Disney buying Star Wars and George kind of selling Star Wars was his ability. Well, it gave the fans the ability to kind of take a little bit of Star Wars for themselves, which has happened, which is why you have directors like Rian Johnson and and people like that now who are actually creating Star Wars. Star Wars is being created by the fans that George inspired. So I think in a lot of ways it's really helped the franchise grow.
I remember when they bought Disney, it was like where you were when JFK got shot. Where were you when they landed on the moon and so on? I remember where I was when we got an announcement that Lucasfilm sold to Disney. And I'm not going to go into details, but I was at work because my phone, my Facebook notifications went for haywire. Everybody talking about Lucasfilm selling to Disney. So.
Spencer,
Hi,
what's your
Princess.
favorite role you had played during your career?
Can you say that again, please? Because I cut you off
What's
and I
your
apologise.
favorite role you've played during your career?
You know what? I'm not trying to get out of the answer to look at the question, but I love all my characters because they're all my friends, right? And I love playing monsters. I love them. So Doctor Who's really cool. And I got to play the Wolfman. I get to howl in the moon and eat people. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, and Harry Potter, I played the werewolf in that. That was really, really cool. And my martial arts is a film that you can't watch for another 10 years because it's an 18. My kids have watched it at about 8, but that's bad dad. It's a martial arts film, and I'm really nice in it. So I'm the head of Millwall, and he's called Mason. He'll smash your face in. He's one of them guys. And Game of Thrones, I got to play one of the first White Walkers on that. That was pretty cool. So I've been very, 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 very lucky, and I thank the big man upstairs for letting me play all these characters and to work with great guys like these, and just keep on following your dreams. And you can do it as well, you know. You can be a real princess if you want to be. Just meet that king. All right.
How has Star Wars affected all of your careers?
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Oh, there you are. Is that a question for all of us?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was the question again?
How has it affected all of you?
I never look at the stars in the same way again. And every time I've got a cold, I get told to shut up, stay at, you know, what's the thing about me, the heavy breathing all the time. I said, no, I've got a cold. That was that. I should have left that bit. I should have left that bit. How does it affect me? It's just turned my world upside down again, and it's brilliant. You know what I mean? Every character I play, it's just great. I just keep them going. I'm 46. You know, it's a hell of a career, and it's a great ride. And if it stops tomorrow, I've had a great time. You know what I mean? But I love kids. I couldn't eat a full one, but I love kids, and I love me kickboxing. I love animals. So a lot of my characters, kids films and all that, and we have a good laugh and a good chat. And I'm the patron of bullying back home as well. So I get all the kids in, and it sort of breaks down barriers. Star Wars is such a powerful thing, you know. For an adult and a kid to grow, a stranger to grow a relationship is a big bridge. It's a trust. So it's a very short bridge for me, and I can help them out really quick because I'm Darth Vader, or I'm the Harry Potter werewolf, or I'm a champion kickboxer, whatever. So it's just a positive for me. It's great. I'm enjoying it. I wake up every day, go like that. Woohoo!
Well, for me at the time, it was just another job. I did it, I turned up, I did the work, and I forgot about it for years. I never made a point of going on to a film saying I did Darth Vader, I worked on Star Wars. I went on to work on 70 other films, and it wasn't until 11 years ago someone, a fan of Star Wars, tracked me down and said, could he come from America to meet me? And I said yes, and he told me about conventions and the forums, and I started getting interested in looking at the forums. And when I did my first convention, I couldn't actually believe that someone would pay me for my signature. I couldn't believe it.
I still don't believe it.
But we've done more and more. Lindsay's always come with me, and we've been all over the world, meeting fantastic fans like yourselves. We're having a wonderful time. We're seeing so many countries, different customs within those countries, and you're learning. And I'm having a fantastic time, so I'm so glad that I worked on Star Wars and did the work I did.
I think one of the things that Star Wars has been such an impact on me over is the fact that, you know, we live in such a divisive world, but Star Wars love is universal and in almost every country in the world. And to be able to see fans that you and meet fans that you share this one connection with, no matter what language they speak, no matter what socioeconomic status they're in or whatever, you know, you share this same connection with them, and you can relate to them through this thing. And, you know, it's just such a special thing. It's something that I've always held so dear that I feel like that's what really makes Star Wars so special at a fan level, is that we can all agree that we love Star Wars. We may hate everything else, but we can love Star Wars together. Woo.
Well, for me, I've just had a great time working, doing all the work and meeting all the people involved and the folks at LucasArts, some of them who are really good friends. But the thing that springs instantly to mind, I just have to give props to somebody, is Mark Hamill. He's, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but he's one of the best voice actors there is. Yeah, Joker and many other roles. He's just a master, and I have the honor and pleasure of calling, he's a good friend of mine, and he's helped me so much in my career. Anytime, you know, he's talked, I can't even get into it so many times. He's just such a sweet, supportive, and helpful guy. I've never met a nicer guy in the world, and I think my time in Hollywood would have been a lot poorer without knowing Mark and having his help and friendship. So props to Luke Skywalker.
For me, it's friendship. It all started when I joined the 501st after putting together a stormtrooper. And through that build, going to forums online, meeting all the peoples, getting to know all the peoples, going to conventions in the States, just making friendship, and you know, basically I'm here. And also it has given me kind of the opportunity to experience things that you hardly ever get to do. I conducted a major symphony orchestra wearing a Darth Vader suit. And that's probably one of the moments I cherish and will never forget, standing in front of a full auditorium and giving a standing ovation. That's something you keep forever.
It's funny, some of the great conductors of the past, their audience, their orchestra looked upon them with the same kind of fear that Vader inspires.
So we have over here the last question. Yeah. So,
this question is for Brian. I've been wondering, did you ever think that your costume for Darth Vader and the Stormtrooper would ever get as popular as they are today? Literally everywhere.
There's only a one-word answer to that, and that's no. But I'm certainly glad it did.
All right, so this is all the time we have, so let's give a big rousing applause for these fine gentlemen. Everybody stand up.